This video is brought to you by my patrons, Coffee, Charlie Kirk, and a bunch of people I've never heard of before. Hello, and welcome to, or back to, my channel. I'm Kit, and today we're going to discuss Turning Point USA's AmericaFest, which was held in December 2024. And I have to say, it must be a really great fest if all these family-oriented people were convinced to not only travel to Arizona a few days before Christmas, but to also pay for the privilege. On that note, I don't know how much attending the fest cost, but I trust you get your money's worth with over 50 speakers, breakout groups, a faith night, meet and greets, and of course, a speech from Donald Trump himself. Now, they don't... Eleanor? This is why I'm no longer in the chair. She must be in my lap while I'm filming. I don't know why. You're silly. Anyway, okay. Now, they don't seem to have put every speech on YouTube, which is fine because there were plenty. And there are a lot of people involved in this that I don't recognize. Like Kevin Freeman, who is a businessman and the host of Economic War Room, they do love their war rooms, on Blaze TV. Or Cliff Maloney, the national president of Young Americans for Liberty. Or Brandon Tatum, who is actually a YouTuber with over 3 million subscribers and who founded Blexit with Candace Owens. Coincidentally, though Ben Shapiro and Michael Knowles spoke at the fest, Candace Owens didn't. So what did the speakers speak about? What is their vision for Trump's America? Yes, we are just diving right in because there is so much. Kevin Freeman wants to make money great again, and his speech was mostly a grievance list against Biden's America. He seems to think the main issue is printing money, and I honestly can't tell if he's aware inflation is a global issue or if he thinks the US was the cause of global inflation. And if you're wondering, he thinks returning to gold and silver is the fix.
Number 5, we can make money great again. And here's how we do it. Article 1, Section 10, go back to the Constitution. The state can make nothing other than gold and silver coin legal tender in a state. We tested it in Texas. Prop 7 said, do you want this? 1.6 million Texans voted yes. 77% voted for it. In Florida, Jimmy Patronis, the chief financial officer, issued a study, and he said, guess what? We can make gold and silver legal tender in Florida also. That's what my team is doing. We have active propositions in 30 states. We have legislation being entered in 24 states. This is written in my book, Pirate Money, the founder's hidden plan for economic justice and defeating the Great Reset. Would you rather have a $20 gold coin or a $20 bill from 100 years ago? Which would you rather have? The gold holds its value. The technology exists to make gold and silver vaulted and transactional to where you could spend it with a debit card. Think of it as Venmo or a Cash App for your gold and silver.
Now, I'm no economist, but he claims that gold and silver will always maintain their value. But similar to dollars and cents, doesn't gold and silver have value because we say it has value? And if you could spend it with a debit card, how will that work? Will it be moved to the place you spend it at every day or once a month or what? Please someone let me know if I'm being obtuse, but this really doesn't sound feasible. Of course, I suppose that's how he gets you in to buy his book. Steve Hilton would like to investigate everyone involved in covering up Biden's mental incapacity, starting with Harris. He makes some jokes. I think he's going to run for governor of California, and he is very proud that he was on the front lines fighting against COVID mandates. And he's also determined to save California. And it's really interesting because he touts all the good news coming out of California, and this caught my attention.
Across the state, Californians voted for our ideas. Proposition 36, we voted to make crime illegal again. But it wasn't just crime. On tax, the left tried to introduce a ballot initiative to raise taxes. It was defeated. To raise the minimum wage, it was defeated.
So not raising the minimum wage is a Republican idea, and this event also has a breakout session titled Blue Collar Conservatism, Breakout 2, Blue Collar Pro-Worker Labor Policy and the Right to Work. I am so curious as to what pro-worker policies Republicans bring to the table. Can anyone tell me any? Because there was no mention of how Republicans would help workers, just that they would. And unfortunately, right to work actually doesn't help workers, it just weakens unions, which conservative, coincidentally I'm sure, hate. Anyway, Steve says that California is at the top of every list you want to be at the bottom of, and the bottom of every list you want to be at the top of, and even if you're not from California, you should still care about what starts in California because, quote, the extremism on race and climate and gender is sent out to the rest of the country. And I have to say, for someone who loves California, he doesn't seem to understand it.
In a way, we are all Californians, because California means to America what America means to the world. The very best of America. That's what California should be. That's what inspired me about California, the home of energy and innovation and opportunity and dynamism, the rebel spirit. That's the best of California. That's what we need to get back to. That is what I am fighting for today. And so finally, I just want to ask you, are we really going to stand by while America's most beautiful, biggest state is destroyed by these far-left extremists? Are we just going to stand by and let that happen? Are we going to let the Trump revolution, the turning point revolution, stop at the California border? No. No, no, we are not going to let that happen.
I've been to California multiple times and I loved it. I loved the vibe, I loved the anything can happen energy, and what he doesn't seem to realize is that allowing people to be who they are, that gender extremism he references, that seeing problems and trying to come up with solutions, that climate extremism and race extremism, that is what makes California, California. And by the way, ignoring problems doesn't solve them. Forbidding thinking outside the box doesn't move society forward, but I forgot. They don't want to progress, they want to regress. And if we won't do it ourselves, by God, they will legislate it. Cliff Maloney, he seems to be suggesting that from 2020 up to 2024, the elections were tampered with, but they finally began playing by the rules in place, like mail-in ballots, and so they won, and now they can fix things.
The left right now is so worried about where they go. And what do they stand for? What is their new voting bloc? Illegal immigrants? I mean, I think that might be the only area except for, you know, dead people. There it is, dead people as well. We spent a lot of time in Philadelphia. But I just want to say this. I want to say that, you know, winning is the best revenge. And I know you guys are hearing this from so many speakers, but this is just getting started. We need permanent infrastructure. We are going to come out, I'm going to go public with this in January, but we are going to relaunch and double down on the Pennsylvania Chase. We want to make Pennsylvania, this is my word to you here today, we want to make Pennsylvania the red wall, I'll use the left's words, make Pennsylvania the red wall that makes it so that Democrats cannot win another national election in my lifetime.
Mark Wayne Mullen tells us his life story, and I was confused as to why he was there, but he's an Oklahoma senator, so I suppose that makes sense. He doesn't say anything really notable, except that the ACA penalized people for being successful. Fun fact about Mark Wayne, he supports a national abortion ban, and this was his response when asked about exceptions.
As I stated before, this child deserves someone to love them. And as I said, as a father of adopted children, regardless of how they enter this world, someone still can love that child. I don't get, but I could understand the pain that that a family could go through in this circumstances, and it's very personal. But still, yet that's still a life, and you can't make a distinction between them. That child didn't make this decision how they were conceived. And I get that the victim didn't either, but that child can still have a full, productive life. That child can still make a difference in this world, and we got to make sure that we protect that child. And when it comes to the death of the mother or the child, I can tell you without question where my wife would be on this. There's no way my wife would sit and say that my life is more important to our child. Just like I would lay my life down for my child in a heartbeat, my wife would do the same. So those are questions that I can't answer. It's going to be between the parents at that time, but I can tell you where my wife and I would be.
take that as you will. And he plans to reform Social Security by kicking off people who haven't paid into it, which you can only collect Social Security if you've paid into it for at least 10 years. I suspect something hinky is going on with his wording, but moving on. Brandon Tatum is very heavy on the God talk, but he also informs us that something he often thinks about is how people said Trump was a threat to democracy, but now they say it's Elon Musk. Sneaky, sneaky. I would be willing to bet he's seen the talk about how Trump is dancing to Musk's purse strings, and people encouraging others to call Musk President Musk to get under Trump's skin. And, like a true conservative, he's attempting to spin it to, they said it's Trump, but now it's Musk. They're clearly making things up. He doesn't seem to realize it can actually be both. And is he unaware of how much Musk donated to Trump's campaign? Does he not find it odd that after such a large donation, Trump then created a whole new department of government which he's supposed to be streamlining, so 2 billionaires can tell the government how to be more efficient? He concludes that they want to trick us into giving away our rights for the sake of weaponized empathy, which is quite a claim, and I would like a source and an explanation. Gary Brecka is a human biologist and biohacker who rightfully calls out that the US has the highest spending in healthcare among high-income nations, and all we have to show for it are poorer outcomes. But he attributes this to missing nutrients and says disease isn't passed from generation to generation. What we pass is an inability of the body to refine a raw material. And of course, he's part of the Make America Healthy Again thing. I do agree that the American food system needs an overhaul, but some things are genetic, and oh my.
And the last thing that we have gotten so distanced from is the sun. 85% of the surface of the world's population is clinically deficient in a nutrient called vitamin D3. When God made human beings, he made us with the ability to make one vitamin. We make it from sunlight and cholesterol. It's called cholecalciferol. It is vitamin D3 and is arguably the most important nutrient in the human body. And statistics say that 85% of this room is clinically deficient in that. We have been taught to fear the sun. The truth is that most of us are not getting enough sun. It's not that we're getting too much sun. If you actually were to chart the incidence of skin cancer's parabolic rise, it would be superimposable with the use of sunscreen. Since 2018, 23 brands of sunscreen have been pulled from the market for directly causing skin cancer, and we have been taught to fear what God gave us. Right?
Sunscreen doesn't cause skin cancer, and has it occurred to him that we began studying skin cancer, hence why rates of it seem to rise alongside increased use of sunscreen? Skin cancer existed before we studied it, before we knew what caused it, before we could treat it, before we could at least try to prevent it. Oh my goodness. Now, sunscreens have been recalled, he's not wrong about that, but that can and has happened with nearly everything from cars to lettuce. That's a sign that regulations are working. When something is discovered to have gone wrong, the product is recalled and the situation rectified. Perhaps now is a good time to note that this is the party of deregulation, and I would be wary of everything: sunscreen, meat, air travel, the air itself due to pollution, in a society with no regulations. Jeffrey Tucker starts out with the House Weaponization Panel report, and then it turns into an advertisement for crypto, which he thinks promotes human freedom, I guess because it frees you from a bank? He says the future finally looks bright again, and I would like someone to explain to me how the wealthiest president, who's created the wealthiest presidential administration in history, some of whom also donated to his campaign, is liberating us from anything, except perhaps regulations. I would also like to see this man and Kevin Freeman hash out how our currency is going to be Bitcoin and real gold. Anyway, on to the pastors. First up is Rob McCoy, senior pastor of Godspeak Calvary Chapel in California.
And Paul is imprisoned with Silas, and they've been preaching the gospel. And much like California and now Australia, and you look at London Stand and everything else that's happening, they're persecuting religious freedom. And they don't care. Paul and Silas preach it. They lock them up. They're not concerned with the consequences of truth. They're bold and they're fearless, and they're threatening them with death. And they're like, yeah, it's threatening us with heaven. Bring it on.
Christians are persecuted in certain parts of the world, but not in Australia, not in London, and definitely not the US. Isn't lying a sin? Anyway, next up is Lucas Miles, lead pastor of Influence Church in Indiana.
This is the infiltration. While Christians and conservatives, we are rightfully worried about the open southern border, the porous southern border that we've had for so long, allowing this illegal and often undocumented immigration into our nation. The four walls of the church have been bombarded with illegal theological concepts and constructs. And while we complain about the southern border, why doesn't somebody do something about it? We have the walls of the church so porous that we'll let any doctrine in without any consideration on whether or not it's biblical or not.
It's weird, but when I was growing up, I don't recall my church being concerned about immigration, illegal or otherwise, or shaming other churches for not being biblical. But par for the course, their interpretation of the Bible is the right one because reasons. Anyway, next up is Andrew Cedra, lead pastor of Echo Church in Australia, and what?
How are you going, AmericaFest? Anybody here still believes that Jesus is King? I'm saying, anybody here still believes that Jesus is the King of Kings? And he's not selected, he's not elected, he's not voted in. Being a king is who he is. Being a king is what he does. And guess what? He was born this way. If you believe this, AmericaFest, why don't you give Jesus a shout of praise? Jesus is King. Yes, Jesus is King. And guess what? You can't kill him. You can't impeach him. You can't try to assassinate him and accidentally miss him. You can't try to put him in jail for 750 years because Jesus is King and Jesus is Lord and Jesus reigns. Can I get an amen? Can I get an amen?
I'm sorry, is he trying to liken Trump to Jesus? And again, what?
And people don't know that socialism sucks. Socialism sucks. It's called godless socialism. See, I'm here to warn you from Australia. By the grace of God and because of the providence of God, God saved America from a socialist bullet called Kamala Harris. And I'm here from the future. See, in America, you guys were transitioning from capitalism to socialism. In Australia, we are transitioning from from socialism to communism. And the way you do it is to kick God out. And this is the miracle of America. And this is the providence of God over America. And this is the grace of God over America. Is that God saved it 4 more years.
I need someone to explain to me how, if California and Australia are horrible, godless places where Christianity is illegal, how are these pastors freely moving about the world and how are they still employed by churches? And what is his source for the claim that the US was moving from capitalism to socialism and Australia is moving from socialism to communism? I would like to remind everyone that these speakers aren't politicians. They're supposed to be pastors. They're supposed to be concerned with your soul, with the Bible, with Jesus' teachings. And all I'm hearing, even from the Australian, is a bunch of Republican talking points, none of which are true. It's just vague fear-mongering about socialism and the left. Democrats are to the left of Republicans, sure, but they're not the left. They're center-right. Did they not pay attention to what Harris was saying on the campaign trail? No, that's right. They were too busy making up what she wasn't saying so they could have something to fearmonger about because Harris's campaign really could have been a George Bush campaign.
It wasn't for America, people like me from socialist Australia wouldn't be able to preach the truth of the Bible. Our socialist prime minister said about Donald Trump scares the hell out of me. I'm like, of course, man, because you're a soy boy. Because soy boys are scared of strong men.
Yeah, I definitely see Jesus in him. His congregation must be so proud. This man is a lot, and I really hope Tim from the New Evangelicals goes in depth on these pastor speeches because, wow. But we are moving on to John Amenchukwu, the youth pastor of Upper Room Church God in Christ in North Carolina.
And the currency of the kingdom is fidelity to God. And God is looking for some men and some women who are not afraid to go to the battlefield of society and do great exploits for the Lord. I'll be the first to tell you that when you go to the battlefield, be prepared. You know, I recently went to Maryland to speak at a school board meeting. And you know, Maryland has a black governor, a black mayor in Baltimore, a predominantly black school board, the law enforcement predominantly black. The CEO of schools makes $479,000 a year. The kids can't read or write. She's black. But when a black man showed up who had a different viewpoint, a black Christian conservative pastor, they called a citywide emergency on me and said that I was a threat and would not let me speak in the school board meeting. They shut it down solely because they don't want to hear the truth.
Per the pastor, he went to a school board meeting in Maryland, and before he could speak, a citywide emergency was called and the meeting was disbanded. Now, I wasn't there, but here's a news article from Fox Baltimore that makes it sound a bit different. The Baltimore City School Board abruptly ended its meeting Tuesday night after a man previously labeled a book-banning pastor showed up to speak. John K. Amanchukwu, a North Carolina resident and Turning Point USA Faith contributor, signed up to speak during the public comment period of Tuesday's meeting. He has gained attention for attending school board meetings nationwide to speak out on library books and policies often being removed. Prior to Tuesday's City Schools meeting, Amanchukwu posted on X he was on a mission in an undisclosed city and would need prayers for this one. His X profile also says he's been labeled the book-banning pastor by liberal media. Tuesday's meeting was adjourned after roughly an hour and a half, with officials citing a security issue in the boardroom. While officials did not explicitly point to Amanchukwu's presence as the reason, he claims a group was staring at him shortly before the meeting. Keep in mind, I've done this in 14 states. I'm not new to this. So at that point, I said, okay, yeah, they know that I'm here, Amanchukwu said. City schools told Crisis in the Classroom late Wednesday afternoon law enforcement on site Tuesday saw a perceived threat from an unknown group of individuals. The district noted the individuals were stationed around the boardroom, clearly communicating and demonstrating coordinated behaviors consistent with a planned activity. Out of an abundance of caution and on the advice of City Schools Police, the meeting was canceled so law enforcement could investigate further, the district said, adding it takes the safety of all stakeholders seriously. Amanchukwu claimed he posed no threat and was motivated to attend Tuesday's meeting by poor test scores and graduation rates in city schools. If I was there and a resident of another state who boasts about being known for book banning showed up to speak, yeah, I would figure they were there to cause trouble. Especially if they posted about going on a mission and needing prayers. Also, how is banning books going to help students with reading? And oh yes, I know he claims to be banning perverse books, but the existence of gay or trans characters doesn't make a book perverse. Unless, of course, you believe that to be gay or trans is perverse in itself. Before we end this section, I just want to say that I also listened to the evangelism panel, and the contrast between that and the pastor's speeches is stark. The pastors were very fire and brimstone. The left is going to destroy America. The left has no God, no morals. God save the USA. Churches need to be strong and stand up to the woke agenda. But the panel was very gentle, talking about their testimonies and how God welcomes everyone, can save everyone, there's no sin too great. I watched a video recently about how churches reel you in and then dump everything else on you, what Christianity advertises versus what it delivers by Mindshift. I'll link it below for anyone interested, and it was definitely on display for Faith Night. Anyway, moving along to the politicians, Ted Cruz was pretty much nothing, but Lauren Boebert, she's such a joy.
We are already seeing an end to the woke agenda, all of the corporations pulling out of the woke nonsense, because America is fully awake and not woke.
America is fully awake, but not woke. So America isn't awake then. Of course, it's entirely possible Lauren doesn't know woke is actually a word and only knows it as woke agenda.
This is our mission. A mandate by you. And we're not just talking about control. We're talking about taking power back from those elites in Washington, D.C., those self-proclaimed elites, and giving power rightfully back to we, the people.
I'm pretty sure the elites didn't call themselves that. And I do enjoy how Lauren speaks as though she hasn't been in Congress for 4 years.
But this is a new era where President Trump and the commission that he has created called DOGE are redefining how government works for you. A commission that ensures transparency and to reduce all of this nonsense that we are tired of. And you saw maybe more than ever this week that your voice matters the most in what happens in Washington, D.C. Your voice is stronger than every lobbyist in Washington, D.C. And when you say we don't want a 1,500-page bill filled with pork, we don't want to have endless wars and have all of this random spending that's unaccountable, well, politicians are forced to listen to you. And in Washington, D.C., nothing happens without force.
I'm calling it now. We're not going to see a reduction in lobbying. We're not going to see a reduction in corruption. What we're going to see is confusion and chaos. But the confusion and chaos will make a very good shield, so I'll give her that. It's very easy to say, no, it's all good, this is for your benefit, when no one knows what's going on. Moving on to Nicole Shanahan, well, first I had to figure out who she is. She is an attorney, and this is what she chose to speak about.
Here's a fact I want to share with you that is what drives me to this stage and drives me to travel this country and this world with this message. There's a biological fact that we can no longer ignore anymore. A species that is unable to reproduce naturally is on a path to extinction. This isn't an exaggeration. This is actually literally within the definition of extinction. In South Korea, the birth rate is 0.72 children per woman. In the UK, 1.5 children. In the United States, we hit a historic low of 1.6 births per woman. This is below the replacement level. That means a path towards extinction. The fertility crisis is hand in hand with a surge in chronic illness.
Why, yes, she did use that as a segue to talk about how Americans must win the battle for freedom for the world. And yes, she did say that sickness is a form of slavery. And yes, she was RFK Jr.'s running mate. I don't understand why they can't just say, hey, we've discovered X, Y, and Z aren't good for us, and we're going to get that out of our food. That would be much easier to do, and it would actually be helpful instead of all this talk about how we're at war and we're being enslaved by big pharma. I highly doubt we're going to see an improvement in anything related to healthcare, pharmacy practices, or in our food. In fact, I actually think we're just going to end up with more unvaxxed people and more sickness from food due to deregulation. Moving on, this is the level of discourse at this conference.
There's a war right now on kids. If you just look around, the biggest industries in countries profit from a sick child and lose money when a child is thriving. The American Medical Association, which is a pharma lobbying group and creates codes that underlie 20% of our economy, all of our standards of care, to this day, right now, they say that a 2-year-old, it's appropriate for them to have gender-affirming surgery.
Did no one there stop to even think about what this man is saying? A medical association is saying that gender-affirming surgery is okay for 2-year-olds? What would that even look like? At this point, they're just making things up and their audience is so brainwashed they just believe it. Even if you believe every current American institution is evil, run by Satanists, out to do the most harm it can, which most of these folks do believe, what sort of gender-affirming surgery could be done on a 2-year-old? They're years away from puberty and even from forming a sense of self. Good grief, just think, please. This man is on a roll, though. He claims the American Academy of Pediatrics says lifetime Ozempic jabs should be the first line of defense for 12-year-olds, which is not true. Quote, the most effective interventions require upwards of 26 hours over 3 to 12 months of intense in-person behavior and lifestyle treatment from healthcare providers. Such treatment includes coaching on nutrition, physical activity, and changes in behavior such as role modeling by parents. After that, then weight loss drugs or surgery should be considered. But it is not the first line. Also, They can't control what families do. They can give a kid all the behavior and lifestyle counseling they want, but if the parents don't follow through, it's not going to do anything. Though I would assume that if you're interested in an intervention, you'll do what you can to make sure it's successful. But you never know, and the kid's willpower and dedication make a difference as well. And they're not going to force someone to take a weight loss drug or surgery. Moving on, he also claims the AAP says Adderall should be the frontline defense against fidgety kids, which I'm going to need a source for, and that 15% of high school seniors are on it, which I'm also going to need a source for. The only results I got were about teens misusing ADHD drugs. He also claims that 38% of teens have pre-diabetes, and the standard of care is to prescribe metformin to them. I did find articles about the uptick of pre-diabetes in adolescents, but the only mention I found of 38% was for adults. He also claims infertility is skyrocketing and sperm counts are down 50% and 25% of women are suffering from PCOS. Sperm counts are, well, perhaps not so surprisingly, difficult to measure, and per Yale Medicine, experts estimate between 5 to 10% of women have PCOS. And then he goes off about vaccines, and I don't say any of this to say everything is fine, the right is just crazy, nothing needs to change. But if you truly want to change things, it's important to be honest and not exaggerate or say stupid things like gender-affirming surgery for 2-year-olds. Anyway, let's move on to Roger Stone and some more fact-checking.
Our problem today are not the socialist, screwball, Marxist Democrats. Our problem today are the weak-kneed, gutless, feckless, lily-livered, white wine swilling, brie cheese eating establishment Republicans who have neither the guts nor the balls to fight for America. My friends, one man can make a difference. One person can make a difference. I point out to you today with us a man who had never been in politics. He was an entrepreneur, a businessman, concerned about creating jobs. But then he put a sign on the roof of his factory in New Amsterdam, New York, that said, "Vote for Trump." It was the largest sign in the United States to say so. And the Democrat mayor of Amsterdam, New York, sought to put him in jail for exercising his First Amendment right. He is now awake and in the fight. I refer to Anthony Constantino, who is now seeking the seat that will be vacated by Elise Stefanik, another one of President Donald Trump's greatest appointments. Anthony, stand up.
The story the news tells and the story Roger Stone, and Anthony himself tells, are two very different things, funnily enough. Per Anthony, he was hit with an illegal restraining order that would have had him unjustly serve prison time for displaying his Vote for Trump sign. Per the news, quote, city officials, including Democrat Mayor Michael Cinquanti, have said the sign violates code because it presents a dangerous distraction and impacts traffic flow, especially at night when it is illuminated. A code enforcement officer alleged in court documents that Sticker Mule was informed it would need a permit and several variances to install the sign in August, but the company never responded before the sign went up October 1st. End quote. I'm not a code officer, but I'm not really surprised that you would need to do something before installing a 100-foot sign on top of your building. And in conclusion, quote, the city initially succeeded in obtaining a temporary restraining order to prevent the sign from being displayed or illuminated. But as of Monday afternoon, the judge ruled that she did not have jurisdiction to continue the restraining order because the initiating paperwork did not meet the standards required to commence a suit in New York State. Moreover, she found the city did not demonstrate any safety concerns related to the structure of the sign or to its visibility from the public highways. End quote. I was really puzzling over how he would be arrested for a restraining order, but then I realized if it hadn't been lifted, he was planning to light the sign anyway. And that is something interesting about Trump fans. If you get into any sort of trouble, socially, lawfully, doesn't matter, they immediately say it's persecution because they support Trump. And it's not lost on me what they're doing. They're trying to muddy the waters so that when Trump does go after those he doesn't like, his supporters can be rest assured that he's not doing what he said has been done to him. No. Non-Trump supporters actually did the illegal things they've been accused of, unlike Trump, who, as we all know, has never done something illegal in his life. Yeah, he's a convicted felon, but that's just lawfare, you know? Ken Paxton, the Texas Attorney General, is another example of this. He talked about how he was indicted and impeached, but he's also sued the Biden administration 100 times. And that's not me opining, that's his own words. We're supposed to believe that when Paxton does it, it's good and right, but if someone brings a suit against him, it's just lawfare because he supports Trump? This is a gross strategy, but it is smart, I'll give them that, if you don't care about actually having a free, just country, which these speakers don't. And speaking of Trump, his speech was basically a copy-paste of others, but let's see what he's promising.
For the past 9 years, you and I fought side by side against the most sinister and corrupt forces on earth. And in our magnificent victory on November 5th, you showed them once and for all that this nation does not belong to them. This nation belongs to you. That's what happened. It was hardworking patriots like you who built this country. And in 2024, it was hardworking patriots like you who turned out and voted and saved our country. That's what happened. After all we have been through together, we now stand on the verge of the 4 greatest years in American history. We're going to make these the 4 greatest years in the history of our country. With your help, we will restore America's promise. We will rebuild the nation that we love, and we will do it very, very fast. That's what we want. We are one people, one family, and one glorious nation under God. We will never give in. We will never give up. We will never back down, and we will never, ever, ever, ever surrender. Together we will fight, 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 and we will win, win, win. We're going to win a lot. And together we will make America powerful again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America healthy again. We will make America strong again. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. And we will make America great again. Thank you very much. And thank you, Arizona. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. Thank you very much. Thank you. God bless you all.
So I guess this is a good time to discuss the other speeches, which I didn't bother sharing because they're basically the same. TLDR, we're entering a golden age where things will be affordable again, crime will be lower, corruption will cease, transparency will reign, and it will be all the better because they'll be deporting, illegal to some, all to others, immigrants, and forcing trans people out of the public eye. They were short on the how all this gold will happen. I guess we're supposed to believe that immigration and trans people are the source of our problems, but they also teed up excuses for why all this goodness might not happen. Democrats and rhinos, of course. Trump is just one man, and though he is sacrificing his quiet years to fight for the American people, he's just one person going up against the corrupt elite. Never mind that he's part of the corrupt elite. And having heard all those speeches, I am honestly scared for all immigrants and any member of the LGBTQ community. It doesn't matter if you're here legally or not, if you've never committed any crime. If they want you gone, they will find a way. And deporting that many people will be chaos. It will be very easy to get lost in the shuffle. And given the US's history with prison labor, it seems to me that deportation holding centers, or whatever they call them, will be an easy way to get even cheaper labor that won't be questioned because, hey, should have come here legally or shouldn't be here at all. And for some reason, Trump is, well, I'm sure his supporters would say he's second to Jesus, though I have my suspicions, but if he says it's all right and good, they won't question no matter what. And even though AmericaFest had at least one gay speaker that I remember, they will not stop. once trans people are taken care of, they will keep going. They will always need to find a reason that the US isn't entering the promised golden age, and a reason to keep their supporters engaged and on edge, ready to fight some enemy, and it will never be because of capitalism or because of climate change or for any reason based in reality. It will always be because someone isn't living their government-ordained cishet white life. And please don't be fooled. Even those who don't seem especially religious will become so when convenient. And at that, the reason the AmericaFest speakers went so hard about trans people was because they want to protect kids, and you know what? Let's have a look at one of those speeches. James O'Keefe, founder of Project Veritas, found himself a Disney whistleblower.
And there was an individual inside of Disney, an executive, well-paid executive, who then helped us report on inside information involving children, drag shows, screenshots of transitioning children with Disney money, Disney employees. We would know none of this except for this brave insider within Disney who has not gone public, not yet. However, he's here today. So, one more time, take out your phones. Let's bring out the brave whistleblower inside Disney, Michael Greco. Come on stage. Disney fired this man. They fired him for bringing forth these revelations. He's a hero.
I got fired for the truth. I worked at Disney for 6 years, and I was a software engineering manager. And what I did over there increased their operational efficiency, right? I was saving them money. I was doing the good work, right? Trying to help my company. But then I started to discover what they were actually doing with the money that I was saving. They were supporting organizations that are transitioning young children. Young children, once they're in this, transitioning into the LGBT community, they will never be the same. They are destroying our children. They fought hard against the Parental Rights Act that Governor DeSantis put in to keep parents to have rights over their children, right? They fought against banning teachers from indoctrinating our children into the LGBT community. And for that, they retaliated. They fired me. They didn't even pay me my bonus.
Bring up the check.
Disney has no right to interfere with a parent and their children. They have no right. They have no right to interfere in our politics, because we are the people of the United States and our vote should count, not theirs.
Interestingly, Breitbart is the only one reporting on this, which I suppose Turning Point fans would take as another indicator of it being true. And there is so much to unspool here, let's just do it.
So we're at Turning Point USA's AmericaFest in Phoenix, Arizona, and you revealed yourself today as the Disney whistleblower who found out that Disney was using their money to go towards organizations that were helping with transgender procedures for children. What galvanized you to become a whistleblower in that sphere?
If you're watching, you might have noticed that they were showing what seemed to be Disney-related images during his speech at AmericaFest. And if that was supposed to be the evidence, it wasn't. You can go back and pause if you like, but there were no screenshots about transitioning children. I'm pretty sure we were just supposed to assume it was evidence, but the problem seems to be that Disney has apparently donated to Zebra Youth, a nonprofit organization that provides services to LGBTQ+ youth. It assists young people facing homelessness, bullying, isolation from their families, and physical, sexual, and drug abuse with individualized programs to guide them to recovery and stability. It does not provide gender-affirming care of any sort.
Well, that actually started further back. Remember when Ron DeSantis signed the Parental Rights Act in Florida? In that time, Disney vehemently opposed it, and they didn't just oppose it in words. They actually took in actions and canceled projects, building projects, and stuff like that to fight something that really should have been common sense.
Disney did not dispute the act of its own will. It did so after pressure from its employees, a fair amount of whom are likely parents.
Parents should know what their children are doing in school, right?
Apparently, this man hasn't realized that sometimes it's not safe for a kid to be out to their parents, which is why organizations like Zebra Youth and the Trevor Project exist.
And people in the schools should not be able to interfere with the children in a way that promotes any sexual content, right? Or any alternative lifestyles and things that might lead them down the path of not being able to have a nice, normal life, right?
And there it is. The assumption that if someone isn't straight or cis, it's because someone interfered with them to make them not normal.
When that happened, it was a turning point for me, right? Like, why am I working for this company? Saving the company money. Saving them in like, I save them 20% in operational efficiency every year. Avoided 1,600 overtime hours every year. So I'm saving the company money, and then they're taking that money and investing it into ideologies that go against a prosperous society, right? So that was the beginning of this story. And then when I started to discover there was support for organizations like Zebra Youth and other organizations actually writing that they would have transition healthcare in their medical insurance, I really was distraught at what I'm actually working for here. And I think a lot of people in my position, they work for companies, and the companies are doing things that are politically motivated.
Being gay or trans isn't political. And you know, people don't have to work or shop at companies that go against their beliefs, but offering gender-affirming health insurance to employees or donating to LGBTQ+ organizations, that's not wrong or shady or illegal. He's not a whistleblower. He's just a grifter trying to cash in on the anti-trans trend.
And they're wondering how do I get up every morning, give my best effort, knowing that it's going to something that I believe is destroying the country and destroying society. So that was something that I felt really strongly, and it took a toll on my life. And after a long period, I finally contacted James O'Keefe and wanted to kind of open it up and just show people the truth. I don't want to expose anything confidential. These are things that are available to every Disney employee.
So to recap, he's a whistleblower who's offering information available to any Disney employee. And the information is that Disney offers gender-affirming health insurance to employees and donates to at least one LGBTQ+ nonprofit? Well, given O'Keefe's loose association with, let's call it Verity, Michael here certainly chose the right confidant.
And I wanted more people to see that and hear it. And because if they're in my position, and there's got to be millions of us, they should speak out as well, right? In the 19th and 20th centuries, the labor movement was concerned with companies companies like abusing people's bodies, right? Well, we're in the 21st century, and they shifted and they changed. And now large corporations, they basically are trying to get to our minds, right? And through their resources of legal, propaganda, media, all of these resources that they have at their control, they're able to shift the balance of power in this country. Because we're a country that should be ruled by citizens. But when an average citizen has one voice that nobody hears, but large corporations have a voice that millions of people hear, the only thing a citizen has is their vote. And their vote diminishes through time, through these propaganda efforts. So this is what I'm trying to really get out there, is that the companies are not just taking away individuals' freedom of speech rights, they're taking away our country by making our vote less impactful through their propaganda efforts. So that's kind of where I've been today on talking to people and having great conversations. People are in the same situation as me, and people just need to be brave and stand up.
Companies are diminishing people's votes with propaganda? I would love for him to give an example of what he's talking about, but I have a feeling it would be something like, this show has a gay character in it, which is obviously forcing the LGBT agenda on us.
Breitbart News has millions of readers, and what would you say to them who want to see corporations like Disney stop getting involved in politics and go back to creating products and content like they used to?
Well, what I have to say is that if one person speaks up, it doesn't make a big difference, right? But if we get through the critical mass of so many people speaking up that it can't be ignored, then we start to make a change. So don't be afraid to speak up. Even confidentially through OMG or Breitbart or any of the other organizations that are there to assist us in getting our word out, be brave and speak up. Because we all talk about this stuff at the water cooler at work. Talk to somebody who can make a difference.
Well, that was a whole lot of nothing, which I suspect Michael knows, as he's so far not gone public with his insider knowledge. But he did get O'Keefe to give him $100,000, so good job. Let's return to the running theme throughout the speakers, protecting kids. But Matt Gaetz was one of the speakers. Matt Gaetz, who was under an ethics investigation that found he did pay women, among them a 17-year-old girl, for sex. And Matt Gaetz was appointed by Trump to be AG. Trump didn't rescind that nomination. Gaetz rescinded himself when the heat got to be too much. Trump doesn't care about kids. And now, Gaetz has his own talk show on One America News. OAN doesn't care about kids. Turning Point doesn't care about kids. Republicans don't care about kids. What is this post from Marjorie Taylor Greene? For my Republican colleagues in the House and Senate, if we are going to release ethics reports and rip apart our own that Trump has appointed, then put it all out there for the American people to see. Yes, all the ethics reports and claims, including the one I filed. All your sexual harassment and assault claims that were secretly settled paying off victims with taxpayer money. The entire Jeffrey Epstein files, tapes, recordings, witness interviews, but not just those, there's more. Epstein wasn't/isn't the only asset. If we're going to dance, let's all dance in the sunlight. I'll make sure we do. Sure sounds like there's a lot more going on than just Matt Gaetz. And for some reason, no one, including Marjorie, is motivated to release these reports unless they don't get their way. Regardless of what happens to Matt Gaetz, who, by the way, will be fine, he's in a good tax bracket, why isn't she ensuring we all dance in the sunlight? Release it all. Let us know what goes on behind the scenes. But that's the kicker. Save the Children is just a gross attempt to give adults an enemy and to raise kids who grow up to despise that same enemy. But in a twist, the enemy isn't the one who actually hurts kids, the pastors who molest them, the politicians who pay to rape them. No. The real enemy is gay and trans people just living their lives. They are the enemy, the ones to be despised and treated like criminals for the crime of existing outside of someone else's comfort zone? This is so disgusting. But this video isn't done yet. Though I was surprised to see George Janko speaking to Charlie Kirk at AmericaFest, I was most surprised by the Young Turks founder, Cenk Uygur. I've never watched TYT, which is why I haven't commented on their seemingly rightward shift, but I know it's supposed to be a progressive news outlet, and though there's nothing wrong with talking to people who disagree with you, this was such a bizarre choice. For some reason, he chose an audience of MAGA, not just Republicans, but MAGA, to air his grievances against leftists, which... did he think any leftists were going to be in the audience? And I understand the desire to get people to understand that you both want the same thing, you just have different ways of getting there, you're not a horrible person, but half of that audience thinks he's a demon, and the other half thinks he's a socialist who wants to force them to live in a dirt hut. Complaining about leftists to Trump supporters isn't going to change their minds about anything, it's just going to reconfirm to them that they were right and the left is bad. So bad that even their own can't stand them. Well done, Cenk. We've been through a lot in this video, and I know it's probably been rather demoralizing, but I want to share something from Brett Cooper.
So when the world feels uncertain, when people let you down, remember that it is not these fleeting moments or fleeting figures that define you. It is the legacy that you build through your actions, through your convictions, and through the love that you cultivate with those around you. That is the foundation of your life. That is what you should be investing in every single day. So yes, get involved in politics. Come to events like this and vote and find things that you believe in. But spend time with the people that you care about. Build strong connections, because with that community, you are then truly unstoppable. That gives you the strength to then go tackle everything else.
Brett is right. It's important to be involved, especially locally, but it's also important to cultivate your relationships and to take care of yourself. You can't pour from an empty cup. I'm not an organizer or an expert, but I do have links below to the Democratic Socialists of America and the Working Families Party if you're feeling inspired. And honestly, I don't think the left needs a Joe Rogan. I think the left needs good, inspirational speakers who have actual plans and visions for the future that they actually act upon when elected, and it needs events like AmericaFest. I don't think anything left-leaning could ever be exactly like this, but it needs something to give people hope, to hype people up, to get them to show up and vote and get others to do the same. People need a reason to be invested, and Charlie Kirk's AmericaFest was... honestly, amazing. They threaded in the, this is what's coming, everything is going to be wonderful with, but you need to keep fighting, the war isn't over yet, masterfully. They're also very good at theatrics and hyping people up. Please enjoy this very random selection of clips.
We got a great country. We have an awesome people. We have a terrific message. And let's just be honest, we are right and the Democrats are just crazy and wrong. So let's stand together. Let's continue to fight for this country. God bless you. God bless America. The golden era is upon us. Let's get it done.
The Democrats, while they are already licking their wounds, they are celebrating. Do you know why? They think that you are going to stay home. They think that this was a one-off win for America First. Are you going to stay home in 2025? Are you going to stay home in the midterms? Are you going to stay home in 2028? And now let's do it positively. Are you going to vote as MAGA America First patriots in every single election?
Say USA. Wow. Are there any FBI agents out there? Huh, yeah. I can't wait for Kash Patel to get confirmed. Oh my God.
Jack, do we say Happy Holidays or Merry Christmas?
Merry Christmas.
That's right. That's what it's all about, folks. That's what it's all about. And I'd like, if we could, and if everyone could join with us, I'd like, since we're all here, let's hold hands. And we'll say what we say every single day before we go to bed. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, and we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. But deliver us from evil. Deliver us from evil. Deliver us from evil. Ladies and gentlemen, that is what it's all about. Jack, I got a question for you. What's the real meaning of Christmas?
Jesus?
Yeah!
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like for you to stand with me and to break a record for the single largest Trump dance in human history. Ladies and gentlemen, and I got music for you. So to show the left exactly how unbroken we are by the lawfare, the assassination attempts, by the suing and the jailing, by all of the garbage that you've thrown on us and on this movement, all of the persecution, all of the tyranny, all the censorship, we say no. We remain joyful, and we are going to dance, baby. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in the largest single, there's 15,000 people here, the largest single Trump dance in American history to show who's the real movement of joy. Here we go.
The things that make me mad about those other guys and all the things they do wrong, the one thing that I will not forgive them for is they're trying to steal the joy from this country.
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
Do the Trump dance.
Joy at the thought of hurting others isn't actually joy, but some people take themselves too seriously, and it is funny, but that was our mistake. We thought everyone could see how farcical it all was, not knowing that there are a lot of Americans who were hungry for someone to look up to. These people are not stupid, they are not delusional, they know what sells, they know what to say to keep their audience riled up and engaged, and they are willing to play to it for a chance at power, or at least a chance to get close to power. And of course, to make money. And, well, that works with someone like Trump. They don't have to offer anything except a yes sir and they're in. I don't even know how to describe how dangerous that is, but I'm sure it's no surprise that Trump is once again appointing people to positions they have no qualifications to be in and that they don't even think should exist. Trump and friends are taking this win as a sign that the country is moving rightward, but given that progressive causes won when on the ballot, I don't think so. I think it's just that Trump at least acknowledged issues and less engaged voters didn't know what else comes along with voting for Trump. And people are tired of voting for the status quo. At the very least, Trump acknowledged that the US isn't working for the average person. And it doesn't hurt that right-wing people and organizations are very well funded, so they have the time and funds to do these events, to create whole media networks that feed into each other. They have news, commentary, influencers, organizations, politicians, whereas the left, and by the way, when I say left, I don't mean Democrats, not so much. This year, I'm setting aside some funds to support left-leaning creators and organizations, especially locally. Times are not good, but it's important to fund those we believe in who are working for change, and in a capitalist economy, money is the best way to support. So, TLDR, I'm not sure about their audience, but the speakers at events like these know very well what they're doing, and we should take them seriously. We should also take ourselves seriously and donate our time and money where we can to what we believe in. And that was it for this video. Please feel free to leave your thoughts below, and I'll see you in the next one.